Welcome to another fun-filled Monday edition of Second City Sports. We're live and live in color right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss McKean McGee, which is she. I'm Sydney Brownhead. That's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow McKean McGee on the Twitter, X, and Akino on the IG.
Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. You want to know why? Because we said so, that's why. And also, too, you can catch up on the other live shows that we have airing throughout the week. So if you happen to miss them, you can go back and listen to them and watch them at any time. So make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app today. Speaking of Sports Zone Chicago, you can follow us on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Once again, please find Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. And while you're at it, please subscribe to our podcast at War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And while you're at it, please give War Media a follow at WARR Media. Once again, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Once again, that's at War Media, WARR Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We are unapologetically funny, and we have very definite opinions. You have any definite opinions during our 2-hour extravaganza we call it Sports Talk Radio Show, you can always hit us up in the comment section at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comments section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you. Or decide to troll and or do something silly or stupid, I've given Lakina full power to give you fools the beer lane beer boot.
Toodles.
But before we begin, we must remind you can also catch Sports Zone Chicago available right now on Roku TV. That's right. So celebrate the squad and give it the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now available on Roku TV. If you already have a Roku television, just tap on that sports folder and download that Sports Zone Chicago app. If you don't have a Roku TV, but you have a few handheld devices laying around, iPhone, iPad, iTouch, your personal PC or your Chromebook like I'm using right now, just head over to that Google Play Store and download that Roku TV app and access Sports Zone Chicago through that avenue. So no more excuses. Celebrate with the squad and give it the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now available on Roku TV 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Live and on demand.
Anytime, anywhere.
And you know we will provide.
All right, so we got lots to do here on Second City Sports, and we'll talk Bears Titans. We'll recap that preseason game plus the rest of the preseason action. Week 1 concluded yesterday. Also, too, we've got this weekend in baseball. Cubs with a surprising series win, but the White Sox give them no help. Just saying, the rest of this weekend in MLB. Also, too, of course, the preseason top 25 in college football was released about an hour ago. Also, of course, we'll recap the Pro Football Hall of Fame speeches. Sid's got another list of top position players from the NFL for the season. So we got a lot to do. Of course, Old School TV Monday. We're keeping with the animated theme here and a whole lot more. But first, we'll talk some preseason football, Sid.
Yes, the beloved, the Chicago Bears, the 2023 edition, kicked off their season preseason style with a 23-17 victory over the Tennessee Titans on the late front of this past weekend. Of course, Justin Fields is one of the main storylines coming into the season. He went 3 for 3 for 129 yards and 3 touchdown passes. Roschon Johnson had 12 carries for 44 yards, the rookie running back. And their Bears defense looked excellent from squads 1 through 3, shutting down the Tennessee Titans off the scoreboard in the second half. Lakina, I'm not going to sit here and say the Bears are going to go 17-0 and they're going to march their way to the Super Bowl. But at the same time, I'm not going to sit here and say that they're going to go 0-17. I'm taking it what it is. It's a preseason. It's a dress rehearsal for the regular season. Now, there's many things that I liked that we will give praise to. There's a few things that I didn't like that there will break down and critique as well. But overall, as a Bears fan, take it for what it is. You have to like what you have seen so far, even though it's just been one preseason game.
I mean, look, I liked Fields didn't get sacked, so yay, that's a plus. He threw 2 TD passes. I'm guessing the Fields, and to DJ Moore combination, we're gonna be hearing that a lot this year. Okay, great, that's nice. I mean, look, I'm not gonna say because you know how some meathead Bears fans or meatball Bears fans, I guess is a better word to say it.
Mm-hmm.
You know how they are saying it. Oh well, hey, we're gonna go to the Super Bowl, we're gonna win the division, and this is okay. Let's just take it one step at a time, folks. And I'm kind of sort of kind of over that little ditty here. I mean, the the offense looked okay. The defense looked pretty good. There were a couple of guys, Velus Jones. He did have a couple of fumbles. Didn't like that. There were a couple of other things I did not like either. But okay, great. And let's remember too. A lot of the Titans top guys. I mean, they didn't have to deal with Derrick Henry. They didn't have to deal with some of their top guys on defense. So I'm like, okay, it's hard to kind of say. Look, was there some improvements, little flashes? Yes, but I'm going to take it for what it is, and I'm not going to say one way or the other that, oh, this is going to be the thing that, okay, the Bears are going to go 17-0 or the Bears are going to suck again. They're going to be right near the middle, as I figure. So, but I'm going to take it for what it is and just, keep it moving.
I want to focus in on the Bears defense first. Of course, I think he's playing for his football life right now, and that's defensive end Travis Gibson. Remember, last year he was MIA. He disappeared just like everybody else on that defensive front with the lack of quarterback pressure. 2 years ago, he had 7 sacks. You thought he was going to be on his way to become one of the rising stars on that Bears defense. Right now, he's fighting to keep a roster spot, and he played like it on Saturday. Look, and he had a couple of sacks. He played the majority of the game. He was very active out there. Remember this name, Tyreek Gibson, Lakina, that we talked about, that second round pick from Miami, the defensive back. He looked great on Saturday, and I thought the play of the game for him was breaking up that wide receiver screen early in the game. He recognized the coverage. He jumped out in front of the route right away and knocked the ball out of bounds. So look out for that Tyreek Stevenson kid. I think he's going to be something special. You already have Kyler Gordon. You already have Jaquan Brisker. You have Eddie Jackson back there manning up that secondary. Tyreek Stevenson, I think, is going to be a special player. I'm not putting him in the Hall of Fame just yet, but you're starting to see some signs from him. But like you say, on the negative side, Velus Jones, we talked about before. We had Mark Grody on, a couple other people on who cover the Bears, that he had a hot and cold relationship as a rookie last year with head coach Matt Eberflus. It did not get off to a good start on Saturday. Of course, after that fumble punt, which I thought he should have let go. He was benched again, never to see the field again. Also to Tyler Scott, I should say. He another rookie wide receiver. He had a fumble too on the kickoff return, which was not good either. So they need to clean that up. Also, to a couple of false start penalties that I didn't like either. Remember, the Bears didn't have too much of this problem last year, but a couple of those silly, I know it's a preseason, but a couple of those silly penalties, we're talking about with the false starts and encroachments from the defense, those need to be cleaned up. And this is what the preseason is for now. We'll look at it a couple of weeks from now that they still having these problems. Then we could alarm for a bigger concern. But right now, these are just warning signs from the negative side. Those things need to get cleaned up. But like you said, Lakina, overall, I did like some things that I saw from this Bears team. More positive than the negative. But like we said, we just got to keep it in perspective.
Yeah, I mean, look, I like Tyree Stevenson. Look, I saw him when he was at Miami. Look, I want to see him do this against top receivers. I mean, we saw what he did against second and third string guys. So I'm not gonna okay, look, he looked good. I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and say he's not, but I want to end close because I want to get to the rest of the stuff in preseason week 1. But I kind of feel like, okay, we didn't look you looked good overall, but I'm not gonna say you look great. I'm not gonna say you look bad. So it is what it is. I mean, look, they got 2 more weeks of this, so we're going to be hearing a whole lot of stuff. And please don't tell Bears fans how to feel, because I saw a couple of people say, well, hey, look, Fields, had a great, showing, and this and that. But okay, folks, stop. Let's wait till look. If after a month you want to, if they go 4-0 or whatever, 3-1, you want to boast about it, fine. But right now, let people feel the way they feel. So I'm just going to leave it there.
Yeah, and let's give a shout out to number 52, Terrell Lewis, the rookie linebacker. He has now the Khalil Mack's old number. He came up big with 2 sacks as well. And so we're starting to see some encouraging signs from this defense. Like we said, it's still early. You can take it for what it is, but you like to see more consistency, especially from the front 7 for the Bears pressuring the quarterback. They got out to a nice start on Saturday. Hopefully they can keep it going. On the offense, I like to see Justin Fields air the ball out more. He only played 2 series, and those were great plays by DJ Moore and not Howard, but Khalil Herbert.
Herbert.
But Khalil Herbert. But we want to see how Justin Fields can stand in that pocket and see how he progresses through the coverage and throw the ball downfield. Hope we see that more of that next week. As they travel to Indianapolis to take on the Colts.
We'll talk about the Colts and some of what's going on there in a second. As you listen to Second Seed Sports on Chicago, Lakeem McGee, Cindy Brown with you. Talk about the rest of the NFL preseason week 1 slate. We'll start in Cincinnati where Green Bay beat the Bengals 36-19, I should say. And look, Sean Clifford, the rookie from Penn State, had one TD pass, but a couple interceptions. Jordan Love looked okay. He only played one series. Threw for 46 yards, threw a touchdown. Trevor Siemian, of course, assuming Joe Burrow probably isn't going to play the preseason. Emmanuel Wilson looked really good, had 111 yards and 2 TDs. So, what did you watch some of this game, or what did you think about some of the stuff you saw with the Packers and the Bengals, and especially Jordan Love?
I only saw a couple of clips of Jordan Love. I thought it looked ordinary, to be honest with you. Maybe they say it was some of that scheme stuff for the Bears in the opening week of the season on September 10th. But I thought he looked okay. He wasn't spectacular or anything like that. Just preseason is all about getting your timing down, running basic plays to see you develop timing with your teammates, and that's what I saw with Jordan Love. Now on the flip side for the Bengals, like you said, Lakina. With that calf injury, Joe Burrow is not going to play the preseason. He probably wasn't going to play anyway, but, it gives opportunities for other guys to step in and step up. Trevor Siemian, former Bears backup quarterback. Watch, he'll probably be a star. Heaven forbid something happens to Joe Burrow. But, if you're a Cincinnati Bengals fan, you don't want me to say what I just said. But, this is all about backups getting some extra time at this point because you never know when your number is going to be called.
Exactly. I think that was the thing with a lot of these games, these preseason games. If you saw Atlanta against Miami, you didn't see Tua. You saw Skylar Thompson. He threw 2 interceptions. Logan Woodside. Not too much of a flash there. 19-3, the Falcons beat the Dolphins. So you didn't really see a lot of the top guys. So it is what it is there, but. Again, you're going to see a theme here. Same thing with Pittsburgh and Tampa Bay. Now, a lot of people think that Tampa Bay could be a sleeper in the AFC North. 27-17 over the Bucks. And, Kenny Pickett looked really good. And, then that one series he played. Mason Rudolph looked okay on the first side for Tampa. Baker Mayfield, pretty solid. Threw for one TD. Did you see any highlights of this game?
Kyle Trask, his name has been thrown around and came to be the surprise starter for the Buccaneers. As we said before the last couple of shows, Lakina, that Baker Mayfield's on his last legs is probably as an NFL quarterback, definitely as a starter. So as Tampa Bay is trying to transition themselves from the Tom Brady era to the new era of Buccaneers football. Like you said, Baker did look good, but this kid, Tyler Trask, he could do something. I'm not saying he should be the starter today, but he's really pushing Baker Mayfield hard. I want to see how much playing time he gets in their next preseason game.
But you'll see with that 21-16, the Lions beat the Giants. The Commanders, this game turned out to be a pretty interesting and exciting game. Cleveland, scored a couple of garbage field goals, but they couldn't get it going. 17-16, the Commanders hold on there. Sam Howell, of course, some people were saying that could he be the starter for Washington. Of course, the rookie from North Carolina had a solid showing there for the Commanders. So it'll be interesting to see if some of these, things we're going to see here. But I kind of like how he played. So again, Ron Rivera will have, especially the way Eric Bieniemy's offense will. We won't rehash that. But Dorian Thompson-Robinson looked good again. For the Browns, threw for a TD, 102 yards. So, but it was okay.
Yeah, he could be Cleveland's version of Cordell Stewart. We'll see what happens there. But going back to that Detroit Lions and New York Giants game from last Friday, shout out to a friend of the show, Lions TV voice for the preseason, Jason Ross Jr. Of course, he did the Blackhawks a couple of years ago, and of course, he's one of the voices at the big TV voices at Big Ten Network. Great job on that punt return call. And if you guys had missed it, you can check it out right here on YouTube. So a shout out to our good friend of the show, Mr. Jason Ross Jr., hometown guy from Detroit, calling preseason games for the Lions. He did a great job on Friday.
Saw a little bit of that, but yes, he did. I saw a little bit of that on the NFL Network. On
Hmm.
the flip side here for Broncos and the Cardinals edge out the Broncos 18-17. Russell Wilson did not look good. Only threw for one touchdown, was 7 for 13, and I'm already seeing a lot of Broncos fans already losing it. So I think people need to kind of take some time. Look, you're not going to show everything in the preseason, so you're not going to see everything. So I think, look, give him a couple of weeks, and then if he still looks bad, then we'll see what happens there. Jerry Judy caught that TD pass, but the Cardinals prevailed, and you saw Kyler Murray. Hopefully, we'll see him this season, but he looked up, but yeah, so the Cardinals and Broncos, I mean, that was an interesting game nonetheless. So what do you have anything to say about this game?
The Cardinals are going to be one of the worst teams in the league this year. They might pick up Caleb Williams from USC. We'll see what happens with that. Even though Kyler Murray will be out for the year with a torn ACL. On the flip side for the Broncos, as you said, Russell Wilson is going to take him time to learn this new offense. Of course, new head coach Sean Payton, he's not new to the rodeo. Remember when he was with the Saints, he used just like Bill Belichick, or Bill Belichick, as we call him on this program for the New England Patriots, he uses the preseason in the first month of the regular season in September to, as an extension of preseason, to get the timing down, to get players acclimated to that system. And this is what's happening here with Russell Wilson. I know he can process a whole lot of information in, but with new system comes new players, and it takes time. So that's what we're seeing here with Denver.
So we'll see what happens with their entertaining game here. Bills beat the Colts, 23-19. No Josh Allen, no Stephon Diggs, but we want to give a shout out to DeMar Hamlin. He played for the first time since a scary incident against the Bengals early this
Mhm.
year. Had a pretty solid showing. I gotta get his stats up, but he had a couple of tackles, so a couple of solo tackles. So, nice showing here, and I think you saw how the crowd reacted. On the flip side for the Colts, Anthony Richardson, not very good. I mean, I think people need to kind of give him a little bit of time. 7 for 12 for he had one interception. So but I mean, look, he's only a rookie. This is his first start, so I think people need to kind of give him some time on that. And these are all new players, and good news is that Jonathan Taylor is back in the fold. He's back practicing. So yeah, so you got to say here.
If Jonathan Taylor decides to participate in preseason, which I doubt that he will, but whenever Mr. Taylor gets back on the field, that's going to help out Anthony Richardson that much more, because rookie quarterbacks need veterans to lean on, and Anthony Richardson is not that much different from any other rookie quarterback has played in the NFL. So, like you said, once Jonathan Taylor gets back in the lineup, whenever it is at the start of the season, whenever, it's going to help out Mr. Richardson a lot. And also, too, Anthony is still going to process that system with a new rookie head coach and new players in front of him. So it's going to have to take him time as well. Now, people expected him to blow up and throw for 3 touchdowns and throw for 100 yards. That's just not going to happen. Things just take time. I know folks don't want to hear that, but things just take time, especially with the rookie players in general. But definitely with rookie quarterbacks, they got so many plays to learn.
Absolutely. Speaking of rookie quarterbacks, Bryce Young, not terrible. I mean, he was only 4 for 6 for 21 yards, no touchdowns, but no interceptions either. And he was sacked once, in there as the Panthers were shut out by the Jets, 27-0. Zach Wilson had a touchdown pass, and Tim Boyle had 2 TDs for the Jets. Again, no Aaron Rodgers. He's not going to play during the preseason, and some of the these are a new system here for the Panthers. So anything you got to say about this? What we're up against? So we got to go breeze right through the rest of these.
Check out those ugly highlights coming up tomorrow, Tuesday, on HBO's Hard Knocks. Bryce Young, I think he still has some things to learn, but Frank Wright, the new head coach of the Panthers, is going to get the offensive line in check, because they didn't help out Mr. Young on Saturday. And like you said, the Jets' defense was on point. I know they kind of took a step back in that second half of their other game last week against the Browns, but they really showed what they were made of against the Panthers. So Bryce Young is going to take him time as well. But they got the Panthers I'm talking about. They got to get that offensive line together, because if that's going to be a problem all year, it's going to get ugly real quick.
Yeah, so definitely a lookout for that. Jags edge out the Cowboys 28-23. Let's see, and what perhaps could be the preview of the Super Bowl is what some people are saying. Baltimore edged out the Eagles 20-19. let's see here. Jalen Hurts didn't play. Obviously, neither did Lamar Jackson. So, like, a lot of the top guys didn't really play a lot. So, but it wasn't, solid showing by the defenses. I know that the Ravens defense had 4 sacks, so the defense actually looked really good there for the Ravens. So we'll see what happens with that. And I know there's a couple more here. The Battle of Los Angeles. The Chargers got the best of the Rams 34-17.
Yep, I don't think Justin Herbert played in that one. No Matthew Stafford for the Rams. And so, like we said before, it's all about backups. Who's going to take advantage of the opportunities? And the Chargers got the best of the Rams. And of course, the lone game yesterday, Sunday was the Chiefs over the Saints over the Chiefs, I should say, 26-24. But Lakina, I want to go back real quick to that Jaguars-Cowboys game. I forgot who the third string quarterback for the Jaguars was. His name is. But did you see that touchdown pass that he threw? He had like 5 Cowboys all over him, scrambling out the pocket, and he threw it in the end zone, and the Jaguars scored.
That was a CJ for third, and
Yes.
that was a pretty funny moment there. But so that was a interesting, but also a pretty funny moment here. If the other game, the Raiders hammered the 49ers 34-7, and Trey Lance, didn't look great. I mean, one had a TD pass, was actually a complete accident, by the way, if you saw how that transpired. But no Jimmy Garoppolo on the side for the Raiders, but Aiden O'Connell from the rookie looked good. Had 141 yards and a touch and a TD pass from Purdue, so he looked really good. And like I'm not saying he could be the number 2 guy behind Jimmy G, so not a bad showing by him. But yeah, I mean, again, San Fran, a lot of their top guys didn't play. So, but Trey Lance, I mean, you're making Kyle Shanahan's decision on who the QB is going to be a little bit easier. I was going
to ask you, Lakeem, do you think they're showcasing Mr. Lance as possible for trade bait?
Well, I mean, interesting, but yeah, I mean, we'll see. I mean, look, there's still a lot. If he doesn't improve, I think he could be end up being a trade bait down the line. So we'll see what happens there.
All right, you're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago City. Lakina hanging out with you as we kick off your Monday afternoon. We got baseball to discuss as both our Chicago teams are going in opposite directions, even though the Crosstown Series resumes tomorrow up on the north side. We'll give you what's happening throughout the other parts of Major League Baseball, and we'll give you the schedule for this upcoming week. Baseball discussion is up next. I'm Sid, that's Lakina. You're listening to Sports Zone Chicago, Second City Sports.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I need for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too. These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you. Your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Welcome back to Second City Sports. We're live and live in color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid Deslakina. As the rain is starting to come down in our area right now, you can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow Akina McGee on the Twitter, X, and Akina's going to be in the IG.
We have less than 80 minutes left of this extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show. If you have any questions or comments for us, you can always hit us up at the comment section at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. The best comments and questions will get put up on the screen by Lakina.
All right, so let's start, go to the diamond and talk some baseball. Of course, we'll start with the Cubs. The Cubs, and some would say surprisingly, took 2 out of 3 from Toronto, losing they lost the rubber match yesterday. But look, you go up there to Toronto. That's not an easy place to play, and you take 2 out of 3. Knowing that you're right there in the playoff chase as well. Look, they looked good overall this weekend. Of course, the other, the Sunday's game with notwithstanding, but look, Christopher Morel has some big hits. That series, Cody Bellinger, Nico Horner had some home runs that Friday series. Assad looked good, in his first start against, not his first start, but his first showing against the Blue Jays. So, what you think? They looked really good overall.
Yes, as we said before, this Cubs offense can do enough to score runs between the average. If they can average between 4 and 7 runs a ball game with that starting pitching that they do have, they'll win the majority of their games. As we told you on Friday, they need to win one, but they can. It was a strong possibility they can squeeze 2 wins out of the series. And guess what? They did just that. As you mentioned, Nico Horner and Cody Bellinger both homered on Friday. Dansby Swanson's bat continues to heat up. Christopher Morel had the game-winning hit on Saturday. Of course, James and Taillon didn't have the greatest performance Sunday, but you recover well to go at 500 on the 6-game road trip. After losing 2-3 in New York against the lowly ass Mets, you take 2 or 3 from Toronto, one of the top offensive teams in all of baseball. And so a great job for the Cubs. Let's give a shout out to Justin Steele, the left-handed starter for the Cubs, the all-star for the Cubs. He has 7 strikeouts on Saturday to preserve the second win of the series for the Cubs.
Yeah, he looked really good on Saturday. And look, I kind of feel like there's this sense of urgency that you saw with the Cubs, and it's definitely, you kind of saw it this weekend. Obviously, they jumped on Toronto early. They came back on Saturday again. Taillon didn't have his best showing on yesterday, but I think the Blue Jays, let's be honest, the Blue Jays needed that win more than the Cubs did. So it would have been nice if they had swept the Blue Jays, but you'll take a series win if you're the Cubs. So now they're back, back in town. They'll be facing the Sox to finish up that 2-gamer starting tomorrow. And again, we will. I know it wants to delay talking to the Sox. We'll talk about Sox, but we'll keep that going. But but interesting is that was going to be tough because it was Hyun Jung Roo make his first start since elbow surgery last year. And of course, Dalton Varsho had a home run and 5 RBI, so there was no way the Cubs were going to win that game. So, but again, look, you get the great performance overall. Look, we can't concentrate on what the Brewers do. We'll get to the Sox not helping the Cubs in a second, but I kind of feel like you're in a good spot. You got through the tough part of your scheduling in that sense. With the Blue Jays, you surprised a lot of people by winning 2 out of 3 after this White Sox series, and then you got Kansas City, you go at Detroit and at Pittsburgh. You've done well against Pittsburgh before you start playing Milwaukee near the end of that last few days of the month. So you can. This is actually a good chance for the Cubs to rack up some wins here and some series wins, especially.
Yeah, hopefully they can get healthy too, i.e. your starter Marcus Stroman, who's been great all year until his last 3 or 4 starts before he went on the IL. So this is, like you said, this is a perfect time for the Cubs to get healthy and pack up some wins, because those Milwaukee series that they play. Those two teams to play are always tough, and so you have to gear yourself up for that. And those bats are going to continue to stay hot. And you need some of the other guys like Ian Happ and Nico Horner to come through. Like we said, Desmond Swanson had a great series this past weekend. Also, too, Seiya Suzuki, he's going to continue to heat up a little bit more as well. And Christopher Morel, you saw what he did on Saturday. So everybody needs to do their part offensively. I think the pitching is going to be okay. James Italian had a bad start yesterday. Hopefully that's just a minor setback because, as we said on the show the last couple of weeks, he needs to pick it up. And so far he's done that with the exception of yesterday.
Yeah, so I think that was just a blip on the radar for that start. So, yeah, Cubs 61-57. They play the Sox starting tomorrow with the mini 2-gamer. And speaking of the Sox, there's listeners I can see Sports Center Chicago, Lakina McGee, Cindy Brown with you. The Sox gave the Cubs no help. Getting swept by the Brewers. I can honestly say that the first 2 games the Sox should have won. That Friday game, they had it right there. But, of course, and also too, same thing with Saturday's game. Sox were right there, and when that, Carlos Santana hit a 3-run home run for the Brewers that broke the game. That game open. So just the missed opportunities and whatnot, and it's just Willie Contreras got the better of that. That Saturday game. So yeah, thanks for not the White Sox. Thank you very much. But it is what it is with this team. They're. I'm at this point where I'm like, you know what? Let's just end the season now. Too bad we can't, but we still got about 50 games left. Yay! So
50 more games for Pedro Grifol to win to save his job, quote unquote, instead of developing young players. But we won't go there today. But that series, you can say pick almost any other series that the White Sox have lost this year, and say that that's a microcosm of their season. This last series was another example there. Friday's game, they should have won. You had 2 men on base in the 8th inning, and Coblon in the 9th. I'm talking about Friday's game. You couldn't come through. Of course, Saturday's game, Jesse Schultz has actually pitched well, Lakina.
Yeah.
And Johan Makata actually hit a home run. Yay. But outside of that, you cannot muster up any more runs. You can get them on base, which is a struggle in itself, but you can't get him across home plate, which makes no sense. Yesterday's game, which I was at as well, Dylan Cease pitched well, but you had to wait until the 9th inning. You were trailing 7-0 to put 3 runs on the board. But if you're Dylan Cease, you have to say to yourself, I know he won't say it in front of everybody, but you have to say to yourself, they cannot help me out. I'm pitching my ass off, but you cannot give me more than 2 runs a game. This makes no sense. He should have double-digit wins by now, but it's not all his fault. The White Sox, as you said, they're not going anywhere. I want to see what this offseason brings. We'll have plenty of time to talk about that, but it's just like this team is going through the motions right now, and this organization is in shambles.
Yeah, we'll save ourselves the time, and let's just skip all that and just go straight to the rest of the weekend. The weekend of baseball. I think for me that Baltimore-Seattle series, that was a very entertaining series. Of course, Seattle got the first
free Kevin Brown. He's back. Yeah, thank goodness.
Yeah, thank goodness. 9-2 there. Also, that Saturday game was actually pretty entertaining. It was a pitcher's duel, but the Orioles got the best of that, and of course they were tied at 3. And of course, Cedric Mullins not only robbed Julio Rodriguez of a home run, but also to hit the go-ahead 2-run home run to win that series. There, of course, he became the first player to rob a home run and hit a home run in the 9th inning or later of the same game over the last 10 seasons. So. Look, we all know how fun this Baltimore team is to watch, and we saw that, and that was just a fun series. I hope we get a playoff game with them, because that was a lot. That series was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and shout out to Cedric Mullins, as we talked about Lakina. It looked like Baltimore didn't miss a beat, but they did a little bit when Mullins went out with his injury a few weeks ago. Now that he's back, he's your prototypical leadoff hitter, which sets at the table for the other guys like Adley Rutschman and Gunnar Henderson. And you saw that over the weekend as they took 2 and 3 from your Seattle Mariners. And as I said before, the Mariners were winning quietly, and they got a little bit of a setback last weekend. But I still think that Seattle will be okay to make it back to the playoffs. Now, as for Baltimore, they had to keep up their lead in the AL East over Tampa Bay, which we'll get to in a moment. And, of course, the Yankees' struggles, which we'll get to as well. But Baltimore, I'm not going to say it's them against the field in the American League, but it seems that way, especially after what we saw this past weekend in Seattle.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of one of those things where I think Baltimore, I think, they should look. They got their druthers. I mean, look, they could have easily lost that series, but they didn't. They persevered and they ended up winning 2 out of 3. So yeah, I think they got the best of that. So a really good series win by Baltimore. Staying in the AL East, you talked about the Rays. The Rays lost that lead in the AL East, but got back on track, winning 2 out of 3. I guess the Guardians lost a chance to sweep, 9-2, but look, you'll take it if you're the Rays, considering that you've kind of had your struggles lately ever since coming, even before the All Star break. So that helps them out a little bit. I mean, this is going to be interesting because the Rays and the Orioles do face each other still a couple of times for the season is out. So those games could end up, making or breaking that division. So I'm looking forward to those games. But yeah, I mean, a nice series win for the Rays.
Yeah, and of course, there's a story coming out about Wanda Franco. We won't get into it here, as Lakina will say, Google is your friend, so we'll leave it at that. There could be a possible distraction going down the stretch here, so we'll leave that part out of it. But back to the baseball. Lakina, I want to flip it over to the other side of the Cleveland Guardians. Of course, you had that quote-unquote fight with the White Sox a couple of weekends ago. Of course, that was Tampa Bay. But with Cleveland, they've been having injuries, especially to their pitching staff all year. Aaron Savali, of course, Tristan McKenzie, one of the best young arms in the game. He hasn't really pitched so far this year. They kind of remind me of last year's White Sox with piling up with all the injuries. And then, of course, they traded a couple of guys away, including Aaron Savali, to Tampa Bay at the trade deadline. I know manager Terry Francona is one of the best leaders in the game, but I don't want to say feel sorry for him, but your heart goes out to him as he tries to keep this team competitive. And thank goodness they in the AL Central, but you wonder with those trades and then with the injuries, of course, with the losing to the White Sox at home a couple weekends ago, you kind of think that we're starting to see the downfall of this year's Guardians team. Especially the way Minnesota's been playing lately.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if they can kind of snap out of this, because look, it gets a little bit tough for them. We'll get to the schedule in a little bit, but it definitely gets tougher for the Guardians. And so again, could the injuries and all that other distractions. I mean, look, Jose Ramirez, he got his suspension reduced to 2, so he will be back this week. So that's going to be interesting to see what happens with that now. I see our buddy Brandon Schultz is with us. What's up, Brandon? Yes, we're going to talk about your Astros. You take 2 out of 3 from the Angels. Our buddy Chris Gilman's team, the Angels. Shohei Ohtani, even though he had another home run, but that salvage, that's that a win for them in that series. But look, Kyle Tucker quickly making a case for AL MVP. He had 4 RBIs in that route on Saturday. So I'm wondering, look, Houston and Texas, they could definitely be, battling out. They're only 2.5. They're only 2.5 back, I should say, now against Texas. So that'll be interesting in the AL West, especially since they did not. The Rangers had an okay weekend, not a great weekend. They lost. They did win 2 out of 3 against the Giants, so that helps them out a little bit. But But it's going to be interesting. It could come down to the last 2 weeks of the season in this division.
Yes, especially with all the moves that the Texas Rangers made at the trade deadline, with Aroldis Chapman being a closer, of course, Max Scherzer being picked up, traded from the New York Mets. The Rangers did put themselves in a great position, not just to win the AL West, but to possibly go far in the playoffs. So as we said, with Houston, with all the injuries they've dealt with all year, especially with their pitching, they picked up Justin Verlander. You've seen he's made a great difference in the second stint with the Astros. Of course, let's not forget Yordan Alvarez and Jose Altuve. Both those stars have been battling injuries all year. Now that they're back, this Houston team should take off. So, like you said, it's probably going to come down to the last weekend of the regular season to decide the AL West crown. And don't forget about Jose Abreu. I know he hasn't had a great year yet on the stats overall, but it looks like he's starting to pick it up too these last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think that definitely be a perfect time for that. So just want to give a shout out to Patrick Bailey. Of course, the rookie for the Giants hit that a walk-off. So first career walk-off for him. Of course, Blake Sable did in April. They're the first team. The Giants are the first team to have 2 different rookies hit a walk-off home run in one season. So that's a pretty cool stat there. Saving they will win in that series for them. Now, It'll be interesting, like you said, it'll be interesting to see what happens with them. But yeah, it's getting a little tight in that division. Going into the NL for a second, the Braves. I mean, they do what you're supposed did what you're supposed to. You took 3 out of 4 from the Mets, and this is gonna be I mean, oh God, I mean, what more can you say at this point? Spencer Strider, of course, making another case again for NL Cy Young.
He's your front runner right now.
Yeah, I mean, he probably is your front runner. Rafael Ortega had a couple, had a big 6 inning there to kind of submit, to sort of save that series for them, to avoid from getting swept. But Atlanta, I think they're one of the top scoring teams not just nationally, but also all of baseball. So for me, I think I'm not going to say that it's Atlanta and the field, but they're making a good case for them that they could win the World Series again.
And they have 2 other top candidates for a National League MVP in Matt Olson and Ronald Acuna Jr. I think that Acuna Jr. has a slight edge, but Matt Olson, the first baseman, great pickup, by the way, even after that whole Freddie Freeman fiasco before the start of last season. Matt Olson, a former Oakland A's player, he's been doing wonders for that Atlanta Braves lineup at first base, so he's definitely going to make a final push.
Yeah, and well, they really have, and of course, 21-3. That was the second half of that doubleheader. There's a doubleheader there, and the Mets. Unfortunately, the stats that's just brutal. They tied a franchise record for that has not seen since actually last time when they won the World Series in '69. They gave up 27 runs a doubleheader versus the Braves, a tie for the most runs allowed in a single day in Mets history. So dubious situation there. But on the flip side, though, the Braves beat the 15 since 1940 with 20 runs and a shutout in a doubleheader. So that's a on the flip side for that. So. The Braves did what you're supposed to do against the Mets, so that's okay there. Philadelphia, I mean the Phillies, I mean, you lose 2 out of 3 of the Twins. You're trying to stay in striking distance, in a wild card. It's a total struggle for them.
Yeah, did you see that strike 3 call on Alec Brom from the Phillies yesterday? Bases loaded for the Phillies had been the bottom of the 7th inning.
He spiked the ball after that call.
Yeah, and he got ejected. Like, first of all, that pitch was not a strike. For those of you who missed it, go look back and look at it on YouTube from Sunday's game. But that was sometimes the pitchers get the call, benefit of the doubt. It depends on who the pitcher. It depends on who the home plate umpire is for that day. But sometimes you get a call with a couple of inches on or off the plate. But that clearly was not a strike. And John Kruk of the Philadelphia Phillies TV analyst, he went off yesterday without really going off in terms of the language, but that was just a bad call, and that turned the whole game around for Philadelphia, trending downwards, and Minnesota was able to hold on to win that game and to take the series, as you mentioned, 2 out of 3.
Yeah, Brom got ejected for that too, obviously. So that was he had every right to argue that was just that was a bad strike 3 call. I mean, robot ups. I guess another case for robot umpires, but it is what it is with that.
Yeah,
the Marlins, Jay Berger had another walk off.
Yay!
Right, happy for him. His great start there. They win 2 out of 3 against the Yankees. The Yankees on the flip side, though, like, good grief. I mean, it looks like they're going to be, I'm sure there's already fire. Boom, I guess, like skywriting across Yankee Stadium. I think I saw. I know New York media is just hammering, him right now. So
and GM Brian Cashman too.
Yeah, so I know there are some people that said that even George Steinbrenner is probably turning over in his grave right now. So he wouldn't stand for it. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, you thought the White Sox had problems. Well, they're probably just as probably a little bit worse than the Yankees, but. Even still, I mean, just brutal. I mean, they could be finishing in last place in the AL East for the first time since 1990. So, I don't know what else you can say.
Yeah, injuries, and of course, players not playing up to their roles for the Yankees all year. And like I said, a big part of it was Aaron Judge's injury, as I know he's back now. But Carlos Rodon, the former White Sox pitcher, he was supposed to do something for them this year. He hasn't. Injuries that hit him again. So. Well, the Yankees have their work cut out for them because they got to jump over a bunch of teams just to make the third spot in the playoffs. And just quickly, Lakina, before we get to our schedule, nice bounce back for the Cincinnati Reds. They take 3 out of 4 in Pittsburgh, which is a much-needed series for Cincinnati. And the Boston Red Sox take 2 out of 3 from the Detroit Tigers as they try to hang on possibly to a playoff spot. But they got to jump over some teams as well.
Yeah, they definitely got to figure. But, look, the Red Sox, I mean, they got to jump over like about 5 teams before they can get into that 3rd spot. I mean,
Yeah.
it's going to be tough. So, but again,
Yeah.
we'll see what happens. Also, the Dodgers, I know that they swept the Rockies, but they've won 8 in a row. Do what you're supposed to do. I mean, Julio Urias struck out 12 yesterday. So, and they're but look, they can't help it. I mean, they're doing what they're supposed to do against teams like the Rockies. So, looks like they're starting to get it together here a little bit. But, look, beating up on the Rockies, I know that's not saying much, but look, they want to, they're putting themselves some distance between themselves and the Giants and the Diamondbacks. I mean, I know the Diamondbacks won their series, but it might be a little too late for them. But yeah, I think the Dodgers are starting to kind of get a hold on that NL West.
And you might have to throw some dirt on the San Diego Padres as well. As you mentioned, they lose 2 out of 3 in Arizona. But shout out real quick to the Dodgers organization before Friday's game. They honor Fernando Valenzuela retiring his jersey. Of course, the Dodgers, I think they still one of the few baseball organizations that the only retired players' numbers that are in the Hall of Fame. Of course, Fernando Valenzuela is not in the Baseball Hall of Fame. Do you think he has a shot of getting in? Because if he would have gotten in, he would have gotten in a long time ago. Because I know he made a big impact on the Hispanic community out there in Los Angeles. You really know the history of the Dodgers in the Hispanic community. Dodgers Stadium, where that stadium is, they had to rezone and do some things, and we won't get into that. You can do your research yourself. But Fernando Valenzuela really made an impact on the Hispanic community in that Dodgers organization when he came up in 1980. And, of course, he has a couple of World Series rings with that organization. So they retired his number on Friday. Just want to give the Dodgers organization props for that. But do you think that Fernando is Baseball Hall of Fame worthy? Because if he was, I thought he would have got in a long time ago.
I think he could. I mean, he probably get it as a contributor, I think, much like Fred McGriff did. So he might get in through the Veterans Committee. So there might be a push for him, I guess, especially after this honor. But again, we'll have to wait and see what happens. I mean, he did make a big impact, in not just in Los Angeles, like I said, the Hispanic community there too. LA probably has it's up there in the top 5 as the most Hispanic population. So he was a big contributor to that. You saw everyone wearing his jersey. We saw some of the clips from when the Dodgers won a couple of those World Series back in the early 80s. So, again, we'll see. I mean, look, I think it's going to be interesting to see. There's going to be a big push for that. So we'll see what happens with that as we go through the schedule real quick. You got Houston and Miami. That should be an interesting series as Miami tries to keep themselves in contention for the NL wildcard spot. Pittsburgh and the Mets, Yankees and the Braves. That would have been a good
rematch of the 96 and 99 World Series.
Well, yeah, you're going on the way back machine with that. But yeah, it would have been nice if it looked better early on. But it is what it is. Oakland and St. Louis, Angels and Rangers, Seattle and Kansas City. Seattle better win all 4 games of that series. Arizona and Colorado.
Yeah, and finish out the rest of the series series that's starting this week. We have Baltimore at San Diego, Arizona at Colorado, Tampa Bay at San Francisco to take on the Giants. Big series for both teams. And other series that are starting off tomorrow, we have the Philadelphia Phillies at the Toronto Blue Jays, rematch of the 93 World Series. Also, you have the White Sox of the Cubs, rematch in the Crosstown Series. The Battle of Ohio will take place tomorrow for 2 games between Cleveland at Cincinnati. We have Red Sox at Washington to take on the Nationals. And let's see. And we have Milwaukee taking on the Dodgers tomorrow night. Yeah. And the special Fox Saturday Baseball, which will be on Thursday for this week. Most of the country will see New York Mets at the St. Louis Cardinals, and the others will get the Tigers and the Guardians. Coverage will begin on Thursday at 6:15 Chicago time.
Ooh, boy, goodness. Okay, yeah, I will say, of course, commitments with the Women's World Cup. That's why you're getting a special Fox Saturday Baseball in prime time on Thursday. Though that's one of the reasons why that's happening there. So that's your schedule for this week in MLB.
Yes, hour number 1 in the books. Hour number 2 straight ahead as you listen to the Monday edition of Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. We have to talk about the top 10 defensive backs in the NFL coming into this 2023 season. We have to get into the Pro Basketball Hall of Fame and some of the speeches there, some other fun nuggets and tidbits, and we have Old School TV Monday staying with the cartoon theme. I'm Sid. That's Lakina. You're listening to Second City Sports only on Sports Zone Chicago.
No, I don't know. I'm scared.
Do you know that you're in my lane? No, not at all. Are you not paying attention? Are you texting? I was just checking in with my mom. I was telling her that I thought we'd be home by 6. It's okay. There's enough time. Just pay attention. I'm not even halfway through my text. There's no way. I'm not even going to look up. My babies are in the car. You have to pay attention. It's just supposed to be a quick text. I'm so sorry.
Hi, I'm Tom Brady, the director of DODEA. September is National Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. The simple act of reaching out and caring for those in our communities is something we all can do. Just being there for someone you care about can be a tremendous first step in getting them access to confidential resources and support that they need. It only takes one person and one small act and 1 minute to make a difference. Let's make a difference.
Many will hear the calling. Few will earn the title. United States Marine. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports on the Monday edition. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's Lakina. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter, X, and Keena McGee on the IG.
We have less than 50 minutes left for this extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show. If you have any questions or comments for us, you can always hit us up in the comment section at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comments section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you. And just a daily reminder, you can also catch Sports Zone Chicago now available on Roku TV.
All right, Sid. So let's get that list out of the way of top defensive ends coming up this year.
Actually, it's the top 10 defensive backs coming into the 2023 season. And this comes to us via our guys at CBSSports.com. The author of this article is Jared Dubin. He says, watch out for these top 10 defensive backs that could make an impact for your team for this upcoming season. Starting at number 10, Stephon Gilmore for the Dallas Cowboys. Of course, we talked about the Dallas Cowboys defense featuring him, Trayvon Diggs in that secondary. Stephon Gilmore has been a veteran throughout the years in this league with the teams like Buffalo and New England. And he brings this experience to the Dallas Cowboys. So Stephon Gilmore from Dallas checks in at number 10. Number 9, J.C. Horn of the Carolina Panthers, a 2021 NFL draft pick. He just only allowed 28 completions for 310 yards in coverage last season. So he's going to be a part of that youth movement for Carolina. So J.C. Horn from the Panthers checks in at number 9. Number 8, Trayvon Diggs from Dallas. Number 7, Marlon Humphrey from the Baltimore Ravens. I think one of the best underrated young defensive backs in the game. Number 6, DJ Reed from the Jets. And number 5, Jair Alexander from the Green Bay Packers.
Okay, I can make a case for all 5 of those guys. I mean, I feel like, especially Diggs, I think it's probably one of those guys. I'll be interested to see if more of those. I mean, I think he's definitely another one of those guys that can kind of make a big, even bigger step. And I think Jair Alexander, especially, people forget that defense of Green Bay is actually pretty decent. So
yes,
I
it
think
is.
they may, that might be one of the reasons why the Packers kind of stay afloat and may not be the last place in that NFC North. So we'll have to wait and see what that. J.C. Horn, I mean, he's a guy who's been knocking on the door for some time now. We'll see if he can break through this year. And what are a couple of the other guys you mentioned?
Number 7, Marlon Humphrey of the Baltimore Ravens. He's been making plays for years, and people don't talk about him as much because Lamar Jackson and their head coach John Harbaugh gets all the headlines. But Marlon Humphrey was at number.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So.
Okay, so we'll continue with the list of courtesy of CBSSports.com and our good friend, Mr. Jared Dubin, as he has the top 10 defensive backs list, or that top 10 defensive backs you should watch out for this upcoming 2023 season. Here's the top half of that list as we wrap up here. Number 4, Darius Slay of the Philadelphia Eagles. Of course, Philadelphia made it to the Super Bowl last year. Of course, checking in at number 3, Jalen Ramsey of the Dolphins. Of course, Jalen Ramsey, unfortunately, is going to miss the majority of the season for Miami, as he was picked up via trade for the Los Angeles Rams in the offseason. Number 2, Patrick Surtain, the second of the Denver Broncos. And, of course, number 1, Sauce Gardner of the New York Jets.
Yeah, apparently him and his bromance with Aaron Rodgers is a bromance that I didn't think we needed, but look, I mean, here we are. So yeah, I mean, I know that he's primed for a big year this year. I think Patrick Surtain, I think, was one of the few bright spots from the Denver squad last year. Hopefully now with Sean Payton and the new regime, so maybe he'll make it even better. Will probably be even better than that. Jalen Ramsey, tough for him. He's going to miss most of the season, so. Maybe just see how it looks if and when he does come back. So yeah, I mean, I like that list. I like that defensive backs list.
Yeah, so you can go to CBSSports.com to check out that list by Jared Dupin. All right, you're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakina hanging out here with you. Of course, another big event that took place this weekend was the ceremony for the 2023 class of the Basketball Hall of Fame, which featured Pau Gasol, San Antonio Spurs head coach Greg Popovich, Chicago's very own Dwayne Wade, Becky Hammond, and Dirk Nowitzki. Lakina, did you catch any of the speeches? If so, which ones of the speeches stood out the best to you?
I mean, I watched a lot of it. I kind of kept it up on NBA TV, of course. So they've been showing that for the last few years. Not going into any particular order because I think it's sort of like minuscule there. But I really liked, of course, I really liked Tony Parker's speech. He started the whole thing off. He talked about his dad. I think a lot of people forget that. His dad's from here. His dad's from right here and not too far from right here.
Northwestern.
Yeah, he went to Northwestern, so he's from Evanston. So I don't think a lot of people knew that about his dad. But they were very close. He taught him how to play the game, and he actually even teased during his speech. We'll get to Pop's speech in a second. Of course, that was probably one of, not the speech of the night. Saying that Pop kind of got on him, and of course it probably wouldn't be legal what he did now. So we won't rehash that. But I mean, look, that whole group. I mean, it was really talked to and also too he talked about his with the French national team and that was a really nice moment there as well, how his game grew. I mean, coming to the NBA as a 19-year-old and, his game, got better as years went by. So that was a really cool moment there. Another speech that stood out for me, I think, of course, was Powell's speech. I mean, obviously, Kobe, when he mentioned Kobe, of course, that's when he started tearing up. I mean, it was really nice to see Vanessa there supporting him. He's kind of been like the big brother to her and the uncle to her 3 daughters. So that was a really nice moment there. Of course, he talked about when he was playing in Spain, that one of the coaches there told him that he would never make it in the NBA. So he didn't say him by name, but I'm sure that guy probably feels silly now. But I thought it was pretty interesting there. Of course, Becky Hammond, of course, talking about Pop, giving her first opportunity into coaching. Of course, she was a good player, both college and pro in her own right. But that was, coaching is really what got her kind of like in the stratosphere there. Dirk Nowitzki, I really liked his speech too. I mean, you saw him with, of course, with Steve Nash and Jason Kidd, and that was a really nice moment between the three of them. And of course, he talked about his hairstyles, when he first got drafted. That was not his best hairstyle, but that was not his best hair, but that was a really cool moment there. Of course, D Wade made an emotional speech there. Of course, at the end, he brought his dad, senior up on stage.
That was awesome.
Hey, that was a really sweet moment. Of course, coming from right here in Chicago, went to Oakland Richards, got recruited by Marquette. And, of course, everyone says that he, Pat Riley, who was there too, said that he was that D Wade, of course, even the Twitter account for the Heat even said that, hey, look, D Wade is the best Heat player of all time. So, I guess he really can't argue with them there. Who else? I mean, I really like this, the 1976 women's Olympic team, the very first women's U.S. Olympic team. Of course, led by Annie Myers and, Nancy Lieberman, who was only 17 at the time. I didn't know that, but they kind of paved the way for, they won silver. They didn't win the gold, but they definitely paved the way for some of the, for all the women's, Olympic basketball teams, up ahead there. And also, too, of course, Pop had probably the speech of the day. He talked about, I swear, he was actually pretty funny. And of course, we saw that moment where he said duh in the middle of it. Everyone thought, I don't know if there was a control room that told Ahmad Rashad to go out there, but he said that, hey, I'm not done.
Sit your tail down. I ain't done talking.
I'm not done yet. Get out of here. And of course, he was talking about the four, the big four, I guess, Darren Robinson, Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, and Manu Ginobili. I mean, he actually mentioned all four of them. And, he even said, hey, look, the X's and O's, whatever, but he did sign a new 5-year deal. He's going to be coaching Victor Wembanyama now. So, but he'll probably coach till he's about 90, knowing him. And it's hilarious. But go through all the pieces on YouTube. But it was actually, the speeches were actually all pretty fun. Even some of the other ones, Gary Blair, who I think people forget that, Texas A&M won a national championship in 2011. I don't think a lot of people knew that. They're kind of the forgotten team, I guess. But that was a really nice moment for him. Of course, Gene, Katie, that would be nice to be. It's all. I can understand why for a time and they decided not to do it. But those were kind of like my top speeches of the night. What about you?
I'll go back to the Pau Gasol speech. Of course, as we told you on Friday, he'll pay tribute to Kobe, and that's exactly what he did. He didn't talk about him for long because he got too emotional, but you can understand why, because he played with them and won 2 championships with them. And so I thought that was a nice tribute. But the couple of things that stood out to me in Gasol's speech, one, he was talking about how he wanted to play small forward because of Tony Kukoc. Of course, Tony Kukoc, fellow Hall of Famer, introduced him into the Hall of Fame. And he said he wanted to play small forward because of Tony Kukoc. And when he started growing, he said, and then he played center and power forward. He said, I guess that goes that dream. But he said, maybe in today's game, I could fit in, with big guys shooting 3-point shots. And there was a big old laugh throughout the room. And also, too, he said the 92 USA Dream Team was his big inspiration as well. And as I talked about before, some of your stars like him, Tony Parker, and Manu Ginobili, those foreign guys, they had the dream team and some of the first European players in the NBA at the time. They can thank those players. And Pau Gasol paid tribute to those players like Tony Kukoc, Dino Raja, the late Drazen Petrovic, and Vlade Divac. And those guys for European players from the 80s and 90s really paved the way. Let's not forget about Arvydas Sabonis as well. Even though he came in a decade later in the 90s, he still had some great moments, but age kind of got to him. But when he was really good in the 80s, of course, unfortunately, he couldn't make it over here to the United States. But some of those foreign guys, they laid the way in the 80s and 90s. Pau Gasol paid tribute to him and paid the way for stars like him and Tony Parker.
Yeah, that was a really sweet moment mentioning all those guys. And you saw that maybe how much the international game kind of evolved. And if you remember, we didn't get a chance to talk about this, but Rick Barry from a couple weeks back, he was on a podcast. He said that, I mean, he and some of the other guys who guess like Jerry West and Elgin Baylor and those guys. I mean, he played during that era, and he said that they could have played in that era too, because they had guys nowadays have nutritionists and chefs and health and wellness people and blah. But I would also argue that you guys, they didn't have to deal with the influx of international talent then than they do now, with all the names that Powell mentioned. And I think that's really an important factor. I think people need to remember is that basketball, it was big, but pro-wise, it wasn't a big thing. The '92 Dream Team, who, of course, they were honored a few years back in the Basketball Hall of Fame. It changed all that. So I think you're now seeing guys like Powell and Parker and Ginobili and Dirk, all get into the Hall of Fame, and I'm sure there are going to be others too behind. Of course, once Luka and of course Jokic, now that he's got a championship now and 2 MVPs, and of course Giannis, obviously. So. There's definitely going to be kind of like an influx of international talent, and that's what they didn't have to deal with back then.
Exactly. And also, too, with the with the Dwayne Wade speech, of course, he gave a shout out to Richards High School in Oak Lawn. And of course, he brought up his dad up on the stage at the end, which I thought was a very, very, very awesome moment. But he gave props to the 1990s Chicago Bulls. Lakina, I know we remember it and we feel old because Dwayne Wade paid tribute to those Bulls teams in the 90s. Of course, he said he got one of his inspirations was that Jordan left-handed layup in Game 2 against the Lakers in the '91 Finals. You can hear Mark Apple now say, what an incredible move by Michael Jordan. So I thought that was also too. And also Dwayne Wade talked about the value of hard work and his father pushing him to be the best, late nights, shooting jump shots, working with his left hand, not just dribbling, but shooting as well with the layups with his left hand, just laying down the foundation of hard work. And I thought that was awesome as well. And he gave props to Allen Iverson, who introduced him into the Hall of Fame. And Wade said, "I wore my sleeve on my arm because of you, Iverson." He's like, "You are the culture." Remember how Allen Iverson came into the league, eventually with the tattoos. You remember he had an afro for his first year, but through his second year on, he had the cornrows. Of course, you remember that world famous NBA hoop magazine cover with the tattoos airbrushed off the picture, off his arm, and they kind of set a barnstormer there. But Dwayne Wade said he mentioned that Iverson set the tone of being yourself and being an individual and not being unapologetically who you are. He said he took some of that from Iverson as well. So I thought that was an awesome moment during a tribute to Iverson on stage.
That was a really cool moment there. You saw Dirk and sort of said similar to what Powell said about the international talent and whatnot. And, that was a really, it kind of influenced the guys. Of course, Tony Parker, said the same thing, especially. So, it kind of influenced the international guys as well. So, a really great ceremony there. That was a really cool moment there. Of course, they Pop stole the show. I think that was just of course he'll pop me and Pop as usual. So that was a pretty.
He could run for president if he really wanted to.
But I think he's like 75 now, so I think he's getting up there.
But you want to me because of his personality.
Yeah, I'm about to say that might help him a little bit too. But I mean, we know how outspoken he is politically, so. We know how he feels about certain issues and whatnot, and then some most people might like it, but there's some people that might not like it. But it'll be interesting to see what happens with him as well. And pretty funny how all that kind of transpired. But anything else you want to talk about before we still got a couple more minutes left.
Yeah, real quick. Amar Rashad, you mentioned Greg Popovich kindly. I don't know if that was set up or not, but kindly booted him off the stage. But Amar Rashad still looks good, and I think he's still in his late 60s, I believe. He was the master of ceremonies for those of you that were watching live on NBA TV from last Saturday. He still looks good for his age. And Lakina, this is us getting old moment again. He's been in sports broadcasts just as long as we've been alive.
73 years old he is now.
Wow.
And, yeah, I know, right? I mean, it's sort of like he's been doing this. Of course, he still kind of works, in television spurts, and of course, he's been doing the master ceremonies. And I think for like the last, I think it was since like the mid '90s since they started televising it. So.
Yeah.
He's been doing that for a long time. But yeah, I mean, that was I'm glad he still works in the NBA and whatnot. So yeah, it'll be interesting. Like I said, it's interesting that that little moment. Like I don't know if it was planned or not. I mean, who knows? But that was actually a pretty funny, but little exchange there. But get out of here, you get goofy. But it was pretty funny. But yeah, so if you guys didn't watch it, don't worry. All those speeches are on YouTube at full length. So maybe with some bleeps. With some bleeps too, maybe without any bleeps. I don't know, but you guys check it out if you can.
Yeah, it was awesome. You're listening to Second City Sports or Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakina hanging out here with you. I know, Lakina, we still have a couple of minutes left. You have anything else to air off your chest before we get into the meat and the potatoes that we're going to talk about in our last segment?
I'm trying to see who's eligible for next year's class because I'm sure it's going to be. Yeah, I'm gonna look that up in a sec. I'm gonna look that up real quick. Let me see. I know somebody has that darn list. I'm gonna look it up. But yeah, but I mean, look, if you guys anything else you want to kind of air out,
one more part of Dwayne Wade's speech that I wanted to talk about. He did give props to Kobe in his whole entire 2008 USA Men's Olympic team, i.e., the Redeem team that took the gold medal away from Spain during the 2008 Olympics. Of course, he gave props to LeBron James and Chris Bosh, who would be both those gentlemen would be future teammates with him in Miami a couple of years later. But he gave props to the 2008 Redeem team, which he was a part of as well, which that team brought home to go after failing. And that team that won bronze, which he was a part of, by the way, in 2004 in Greece.
Yeah. So, that was a I think people forget how big of a pickup that was, getting him on the team because – look, I mean, we saw what happened. That was not a good showing by that team, and of course, Larry Brown. I think took a lot of responsibility for that, and unfortunately, that's what led to how the team is now constructed now. And of course, I think people forget he was the leading scorer, even though he came off the bench. So he was he's shot, I think, like almost 70%. So he's one of the big reasons why they were able to redeem themselves. And we talked about it on Friday. They were able to redeem themselves and then get on the team. So. That was a really cool, moment there. Now, I actually have the list up here of Hall of Fame, potential Hall of Famers for next year. First year, guys. Vince Carter, Jamal Crawford, Kyle Korver, Joakim Noah, Tyson Chandler, and JJ Barea.
I think Vince Carter will get in on his first try. He should. And who was that second one? Jamal Crawford?
Crawford, yep.
I think he has 3 or 4 Six Man of the Year awards. And he played nearly 20 years. One-time Chicago Bull, by the way. I think those two should get in automatically. There'll be a problem if it doesn't happen.
Yeah, I think Noah should too, because I know some people will say, remember, folks, this is the Basketball Hall of Fame. I mean,
not the NBA.
Yeah, so that means his college career won 2 national championships in Florida. That might get back-to-back for the last school to go back-to-back. I know those teams don't get a lot of credit, which they should, but that's a whole different conversation. Right. But that might get him in, of course. He had a great he had a solid showing in the had a Hall of Fame consideration as well. I mean, he went to about 6 All-Stars and All-Star games and stuff like that. So, but his college credentials will get him in, no doubt.
Yeah. Also, Joakim Noah has a Defensive Player of the Year award under his belt as well. They say he's a multi-year All-Star, and he was definitely part of the impact which made the Chicago Bulls popular in the early 2010s, next to Derrick Rose, obviously. We all know that he was a heart and soul and emotional leader of that team that just couldn't get over the hump, unfortunately, after Derrick Rose's injuries. But Joakim was a big part of those Bulls teams in the early 2010s. And like you said, it's not just his pro basketball career, it's his college basketball career as well. He was definitely the face of that next to Al Horford. So he should get it. I don't know if he's going to get in on his first try, but I think he'll eventually get in. But the 2 previous names I just mentioned with Jamal Crawford and Vince Carter, those should get in automatically first ballot next year.
I think you might be right. So we'll see as we get close to the list later this year. I think early next year, I think we'll see the semifinalists and stuff like that. So we'll have to wait till maybe January or something like that. So but congrats to all the Hall of Famers. So a really great ceremony as usual. So like I said, you can catch all those pieces on YouTube if you didn't watch it on Saturday.
Yes. So we have to take a 2-2 break right here on the Monday edition of Second City Sports, right here on Sports Zone Chicago City. Lakina hanging out here with you. We have some more nuggets and tidbits to bring along to you. And plus, we're going to get into Old School TV Monday as we continue our cartoon theme for this month. You guys are really going to like this show for today. If you, I'm going to give a little bit of a way. If you guys are our age and older, you'll definitely remember this cartoon. It caused so much controversy. It really made people's heads spin. I'll leave it at that. I'm Sid. That's Lakina. You're listening to Second City Sports, the Monday edition, right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I need for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too. These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you, your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov, a public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Sorry. Welcome back to Second City Sports on the Monday edition. We're live and live in color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. This is our last break for today. So you have any last minute I can't talk today. You have any last minute questions or comments, you can put them in the comment section at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions, comments in the comment section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you. But in the meantime, in between time, you can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at CK80. Once again, it's CK80. That's SIDKID80, SIDKID80.
You can follow Makina McGee on the Twitter, X, and Akino's going in the IG.
All right, we got less than a half hour left of this extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show, Lakina. So, as usual, let's go out with a bang, and we'll start out with some sports media news coming to us from the world of ESPN. Of course, they re-signed NBA TV analyst Hubie Brown to a multi-year deal, and they plan to make Ryan Ruocco, Richard Jefferson, and J.J. Redick the number 2 team for the NBA on ESPN telecast. Of course, the number 1 team for this upcoming 23-24 season will be Mike Breen, Doris Burke, and former head coach Doc Rivers.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. The way they they kind of like, it makes you wonder, like, oh, okay, are they getting with the 3 guys you mentioned beforehand, the number 2 team? You wonder, are they gearing up for perhaps maybe once? I know that Mike Breen may not want to do this forever. I know that Doris Burke, not to call them old by any means, but you gotta wonder, like, are they gonna want to do that? Do this forever? And of course, Doc Rivers, this could be like a 1 or 2 year thing where a coach, a team might call and say, hey, Doc, you want to come coach again? So I'm wondering, like, did he give them some assurance that he's not gonna come back to coach? So I think that's probably why they went with the 3 younger guys. Of course, as for Hubie Brown, I mean, look, we can go all the way back to Hubie when he first started joining with on CBS. So back in the 80s, called a lot of those Celtics, Lakers, NBA Finals,
Bulls,
among others.
Pistons, yeah.
Yep. So so he's been around a minute. He still has his wits. He's still got his drivers. He's still very sharp. He's going to be 90 years old in September. So just the fact that he's still doing it and still is good at it. I mean, kudos to him. And he's in great health. So that's amazing there. So yeah, I think again, it's gonna be interesting to see how this new team shakes out with Mike Breen, Doris Burke, and Coach Rivers. But I wonder if they're gearing up for, like, maybe this might not be maybe a 1 or 2 year thing where that they might just say, hey, we'll just promote the 3 guys at the number 2 to promote them up. So, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think you're safe for this upcoming season for Doc Rivers. I don't think no one's going to snatch him out in the middle of the year and for him to coach a team. I don't see that unless he really campaigns for it. But next year for 24-25, as the NBA TV deal, NBA TV contracts nears to his end with ESPN and Turner, you may see something there with Doc. We don't know. So it's still 2 years away. But what I wonder reading about this news with the number 2 team, what does this do for Mark Jones? Of course, he's going into for next year. He's going into year 3 of being the TV voice of the Sacramento Kings. Of course, he's allowed to still call games for ESPN, not just for the NBA, but for college football and other events as well. What does it do to Mark Jones? Does it demote him to number 3? Will he just fill in for the number 2 team on some weeks? He's been there for a long time as well.
Yeah, remember he also does college hoops too. So this might be one of those things where he might be busy doing those things at college football. Of course, we know that he's going to be doing a whole, whole season as he usually does. Same thing with college basketball as well. I think he might just be too busy to do NBA. I mean, he may do a little bit in spurts. I mean, whenever Breen has other commitments, with the Knicks, he might do that, or maybe if Ruocco might have a radio assignment or whatever, he might chip in. But I think he's got other stuff, so it's not like he's not. I mean, like you said, he's got the Kings too, so it's not like he's not going to be doing anything. So I think it's kind of So I think that might be the reason why, instead of anything sinister, he's just going to be busy doing other stuff.
Yeah. To the world of streaming, Amazon Prime Video announces that Jason Kelce, the offensive lineman from the Philadelphia Eagles and the brother of Travis Kelce, the documentary of his life will premiere on September 12th. Interesting, during the first opening weekend of the NFL season. We all know, of course, Jason and Travis have a popular podcast that's out right now. Yeah, I think you can watch clips of it here on YouTube. I actually checked out some of the clips, but it is very interesting. It's very good. Of course, we all know that Travis Kelce has a big personality, the 2-time Super Bowl champ from the Kansas City Chiefs. But it's interesting here that Jason Kelce is going to get a documentary of his life premiering on Amazon Prime in a few weeks.
Well, yeah, I mean, he has lived a pretty interesting life, as his own right. I know that, Travis gets all the attention now. He's got 2 Super Bowl rings, but look, remember, Jason has his own ring too, and I think that, look, he's probably one of the most durable offensive linemen in the NFL, has been for years. So, he's got a great family too. So I think it's fine. I mean, look, it's one of those things where I think people will see that, hey, Travis isn't the only one that has a great personality in that family. So I know we're probably going to see their parents and their kids, his kids and whatnot. So yeah, it's going to be funny though. I think it'll be fine.
Yeah. And speaking of streaming services, Lakina, are you a subscriber to Netflix?
Yes, I am.
Okay, have you checked out the Peyton Manning produced documentary called Quarterback Series for Netflix? It featured.
I have not gotten. I have not. I've heard a lot of good things about it, but I have not gotten to watch it myself just yet.
Yeah. Daniel Jones, the New York Giants quarterback, was asked to do the series. I think he said no. Of course, all the current quarterbacks in the league, including Justin Fields here in Chicago, said no. Of course, the series followed 3 quarterbacks last year, and all with different contrasting personalities and storylines. Patrick Mahomes, who ended up winning the Super Bowl, Kirk Cousins of the Minnesota Vikings, and of course, Marcus Mariota with the Atlanta Falcons. They follow these guys throughout their home life as long as with their work life as well. And I did see some clips of it. From what I saw, I thought it was pretty good. But I wanted to ask you, did you see the whole thing? I haven't get a chance to watch the whole thing series yet.
Yeah, so I haven't watched it yet, but I heard good things about it. And look, I think it's pretty cool to have to see guys like add their elements, on and off the playing field, what their family life is like, and whatnot, what their interests are. I think I can understand why some guys didn't want to do it. It may be a little bit intrusive. You don't want it to be a distraction. So yeah, I get that. But look, I know Mahomes did. Everyone said that one was really good. So I'm looking forward to that one. And I think they just already got picked up for another season. So we're going to see how who's going to they're going to be running out of guys to do if they can't find anybody else to do it.
And one more note from the sports media world. Speaking of ESPN, former ESPN sports anchor, of course, he's been doing a great job for the NFL Network over the past almost 2 decades. Rich Eisen, he's going to launch a new podcast called Overreaction Monday. It's going to debut in a few weeks.
I'm sure he's going to be talking a lot about Michigan football. I'm sure we'll get to that in a second. But yeah, I'm sure he'll be, look, he did something similar too. He had his radio show for a few years. Of course, that got dissolved.
Yeah, he's still doing it now. Mm-hmm.
He's still doing it. So I'm sure this is going to be another thing to add to his repertoire. So I'm sure it's going to be a little more personal. I know his wife, Susie Schuster, I think she did did the science for ABC college football coverage for a little bit. Mm-hmm. So I think she still does too. I think she does still some sports. It'll be interesting to see if she makes an appearance. So it's probably going to be more of a personal thing for him. But yeah, I might check it out.
Yeah. So there's your latest on the news from the sports media world. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, the Monday edition. Sid Lakina hanging out here with you. We still have a few more minutes left, Lakina. Let's get to college football. I know you teased before the show that they released their top 25 poll. And of course, the new college football season kicks off in a couple of weeks on Labor Day weekend. Who is ranked number 1?
Well, I want to preface this by saying that I'm not a fan of this. I've been saying it for years. They shouldn't be doing any preseason polls no polls till October. So mid-October at that. So again, real crazy things happen through the season. Some teams actually do better, but then some teams actually end up sticking at the place. So yeah, I know they do it for for gambling, potential gambling and whatnot. But I just think it's silly that they're doing these polls in the middle of August. But whatever. The number 1 team in the AP preseason poll is the 2-time defending national champions, Georgia. Not a big surprise. I mean, I know they lost a lot of their top guys, but they got a lot of guys back and all the field stuff. I'm sure Kirby Smart will love to have, to kind of get back to football and whatnot. So we'll see what happens with that. Number 2 is Michigan. Not a big surprise. They got a lot of their guys back on the defensive side, especially, and of course Blake Corum, coming back from that ACL injury that he suffered late last year. He's back at it. Looks really good. So we'll see how Michigan looks. Ohio State's right behind.
Yeah, Jim Harbaugh won't be suspended this year for 4 games.
That whole thing was a little bit nutty. So yeah, we won't get into that. It's a little weird. It's a little complicated too at the same time. But but right behind them is also Ohio State. They've got Marvin Harrison Jr. and whatnot. So
he's going to be the number 1 wide receiver, and maybe outside of Caleb Williams of USC. I think Marvin Williams may be the number 2 player picked in next year's draft. I don't think I'm going out too far on a limb by saying that. Maybe the second best player in the country.
Yeah, he might be. And of course, our buddy James Newell, I think, even said, I mean, we don't know who's going to be their quarterback yet, who's going to be throwing him the ball. So that's another thing, but we'll see what happens with that. Alabama, I think this is the first time I think about a decade that Alabama is not in the preseason top 3. So, I think since like 2009, I think. So that's going to be a.
But Nick Saban's seething in his teeth to have a great year. I know you lost Bryce Young to the NFL draft. You lost a couple of other guys as well. But Alabama usually replace great talent with a good, great crop of players. So I expect a huge bounce back for Alabama. You're not cheering for them to lose, but you know they're going to have a bounce back year.
Yep. Staying in the SEC, you got LSU. That is your top 5. Brian Kelly, of course, they made some inroads in his first year. I'm sure there's a lot expected from them this year. So we'll just see if they can make, inroads there. USC, speaking of Caleb Williams, of course, he's back, fresh off his Heisman Trophy. They actually have beef up their defense, which they definitely need to. So,
So it was a problem for them last year. While Caleb Williams was giving them problems on the offense, giving opponents problems from the offensive perspective, the USC defense was trash last year. Like I said, we said it all throughout the season last year, and that's what cost them the college football playoff.
Yep. Penn State. You'll go back to the Big Ten. Penn State's number 7. James Franklin. They got a lot of guys back. We talked about our good buddy James Nouveau. Florida State. Again, a lot of their guys back from last year. So we'll see. They're back in the top 10. Clemson. We'll see how they look in the. We saw what happened last year. It was a quote unquote down year for Clemson. So we're hoping to make a bounce back year this year.
Yeah, Dabo Swinney likes the attention as well, along with bringing great talent in, just like those other top schools like Michigan and Alabama. So I'm looking forward to see what Clemson does this year.
Back to the Pac-12, Washington makes their appearance.
What's left of it anyway?
Michael Penix Jr. is back. He made the decision to come back. Washington finished strong last year. They only think they're 10-2 or something like that. So won their bowl game. So. I'm sure a lot of people expect a lot from them this year. Texas, are they back? We'll find out this season. So, so that's going to be interesting to see what happens with that. Tennessee, of course, with basically a whole new roster, of guys. So, we'll see if Josh Heupel can do the same thing that, Nick Saban has done. Some guys, top guys retire, depart. You got more guys coming in. So they're at number 12. Notre Dame, they're at number 3. 12, 13, I should say. Look, Marcus Freeman, his first year there wasn't very good last year. Had a lot of guys, depart. So we're going to see if they can kind of make some inroads there with Notre Dame.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. He needs to have a better start this year to the season, unlike a year ago.
Yep. So we'll see what happens with that. Utah, the defending Pac-12 conference champs. They're at 14. Of course, they got a lot of their guys back. Cameron Rising is back too for Utah. So we'll see if Kyle Whittingham can give USC and Washington some problems this year. Staying in the Pac-12, you got Oregon, Kansas State, and TCU, the 2 participants from the Big 12 championship last year. Oregon State, pull off a couple of upsets. They looked really good. Their defense is back. Wisconsin, Luke Fickell, their new head coach. We'll see how they look this year. Oklahoma.
They're supposed to have a new offense.
Yes, they do. A totally new offense. They're actually going to be passing. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of running backs. Again, we talked about that with our buddy James too a few weeks back. Go back and listen to it on the Sports of Chicago YouTube page. Oklahoma, not a good first year for Brett Venables. But a lot of those guys are back, so they're going to be stronger. So we'll see what happens with them in the Big 12. North Carolina, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, Tulane, and Iowa. Let's hope they can score some points this year. That is your top 25 in the preseason poll.
If I missed the school, please let me know. But TCU wasn't ranked in the top 25. I wonder why. Did those folks miss the 17?
Yep.
Okay, I stand corrected. Okay. I was like, that team beat Michigan last year, and then made Michigan change his whole style, because we all know that Michigan's not built to score 40 points a game. TCU is, and you saw what happened in that entertaining game last year. So I want to see if TCU can repeat what they did last year. Also, to Kansas State, which gave TCU problems in that Big 12 title game last year. I want to see how those 2 schools will respond this year in 2023.
Yep. Be interested to see what happens with that. Texas A&M, of course, on the other schools that got votes. Texas A&M, South Carolina, UCLA, UT San Antonio, the Roadrunners, beep. Some people may say they may sneak in there for the college football playoff. We'll see. Arkansas, Illinois got 3 votes in the preseason poll. Kansas got 10, and Auburn got 7. We'll see. They got a whole new coaching staff coming in, and Minnesota right behind them got some votes as well. Florida got 4 votes too, and so did Baylor. Got the same votes as Illinois each getting 3. So yeah, pretty interesting. Not really big surprises in this poll, but but like I said, I mean, I think it's ubiquitous. Like I said, I'm not a big fan of polls this early on, but what can you do? I think gives content for like us to talk about. So whatever it is, what it is.
Yeah, a couple teams to speak on. Arkansas, they had a nice start last year. Of course, when it came to the conference schedule, they kind of struggled toward the end of the season. Illinois, I want to see if this is if Brett Bielema is for real. Of course, they had a good year last year, even though they struggled toward the end of the season, but they still had enough wins to qualify for an above average bowl game. I want to see what they do in year 2. And Northwestern, we didn't talk about this, Lakina. Of course, their new head coach was sporting some new sweatshirts and T-shirts talking about free Pat Fitzgerald, like free 51. Like really. I get it. That's your rallying cry. You got to get those young kids motivated, but you really want to put that out in the public for all that the school has been going through right now. All of it is their own self-doing, but still, that is bad optics. Bad optics. That's just me personally. I don't know what your thoughts about it is. I looked at some of the photos over the weekend. And of course, they came out after we got off the air last Friday. But I was like, really? I get that's your rallying cry. Okay, but to put it out in the public like that, this is for them to make news and to say bleep you to me. Okay, but this is all going back on you, not the media. I'm just saying.
It's one of those things where it's just like you said, it was just bad optics overall. Look, if you want to have a rallying cry, that's fine, but to have to use that, like, look, if you want to do the whole us against the world mentality, hey, look, have at it. But to say free Pat Fitzgerald, especially with now even more stuff starting to come out about what allegedly might have taken place under his tenure, probably not a good way of showing that. I mean, they keep, David Braum, who's the interim coach over at Northwestern now, he keeps shooting himself in the foot, and this team keeps shooting themselves in the foot. So, where the heck's Derek Greg, who's the AD, and then of course some stuff has came out about him. We won't get into that. The president, Northwestern president, like, really, like, where were those guys and all of this? Because
you never heard a peep out of any of them.
Yeah, I mean, Michael Schill, the president of Northwestern, and it's just like it's looking very, very, very bad for them at this point. I mean, I know. Look, we said it before. I mean, they're not going to cancel the season, but at the same time, though, I mean, you're making yourselves look really bad and not sympathetic to a lot of people, and so you can't really play it on that. But I don't know. It's like it's just silly at this point.
Yeah, it's being insensitive to the situation that they put themselves in. Of course, you're dismissing the victims and the people who suffered emotional and physical trauma through all the hazing that's been going on in that program for years. And I get it. You want to do your job and to win football games, but that's just like I said about the Penn State situation with the late Joe Paterno years ago. We all are sports fans for a reason. Yes, sports are important, but when actual real life happens, some things are just way more important than sports. And this is one of those situations here.
Well, like I said, I mean, especially as more and more stuff is coming out about what allegedly happened. Again, not a good look, people. But you wonder, is there there's no communication, there's no anything going on within the school itself. So what it's just like you're making yourself look sillier and sillier and insensitive through all this and bad too at that. So I don't know. But let's move on here. I'm getting I don't want to depressed.
You're listening to second.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Yeah, you listen to Second City Sports on Chicago. Sid, Lakina are here with you. Lakina, any other thoughts and tidbits before we get to Old School TV Monday?
What? Not really, because I think we covered pretty much everything for the day. I think we did cover a lot. So
which is rare.
Yeah, I know. Well, Peyton Manning's now a professor. I'll look that up real quick. Peyton Manning, of course, the legendary quarterback from Tennessee, of course, a Hall of Famer, Pro Bowl Hall of Famer. He is now the professor of. Let's see here. Let me make sure I get the class right. But yeah,
I know it's not Tennessee.
Well, yeah. Well, over at Tennessee, he's joining the College of Communications and Information as a professor of practice this coming fall.
Okay.
Yeah, so he's going to be providing Transformer learning opportunities and such. So I'm assuming he's probably going to be doing some stuff for his him and brother Eli's production company. So I'm sure he's going to be giving a lot of opportunities to deserving students for them. So yeah, so it'll be Professor Peyton Manning starting this fall.
Congratulations to him, and I definitely cannot wait for their Monday Night Football simulcast to come back for this season. So I'm sure he'll be back in time for the start of the season. So congratulations to him trying to give back to his alma mater.
All right, Sid. So let's go to old school TV Monday. Keep up with the cartoon theme here, folks. Animated theme. We did Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles last week. Which cartoon are we doing this week?
Let's go, Ghostbusters! Let's go!
Yes.
Let's go!
Oh, yes.
That's right! Ghostbusters, the 1986 TV series. Ghostbusters, later called Filmation's Ghostbusters, was an American animated television series created by Filmation and distributed by Tribute Entertainment, serving as the sequel to Filmation's 1975 live-action television show, The Ghostbusters. It is not to be confused with the Columbia Pictures 1984 film Ghostbusters or that film's subsequent animated television show, The Real Ghostbusters, which premiered 5 days later at that time on ABC. When making their film, Columbia Pictures needed to obtain rights to the use of the name from Filmation. The success of Columbia's unrelated film spurred Filmation to resurrect their own property, producing an animated series based on the characters from the early TV show. This animated series ran from September 8th until December 5th, 1986 in daytime syndication. Locally, if you were living in Chicago, it was broadcasting on WGN-TV. And it produced 65 episodes. The series is technically called simply Ghostbusters, but home video releases used the name Filmation's Ghostbusters to avoid confusion. In the U.S., reruns of the show previously aired on CBN Cable, the Family Channel, and Kubo's Night Out blog from 2010 to 2013, and most recently on the Retro Television Network until 2015. In the 80s, ABC aired the series in Australia.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many versions of this. The Ghostbusters cartoon is a little bit nutty. I mean, of course, we talked about the 1976 version. Then there was another version that aired on ABC here in the States, was a totally different version. This version we're talking about is the syndicated version that aired here nationally, and it was and look, this one is not based on the movie. I think this was a totally different take on it, and I think this is where the confusion sort of sets in for a lot of folks, because I watched all those versions of Ghostbusters, so that I think that whole thing was really interesting there. But yeah, I mean, like, it wasn't. I know it was a little bit controversial for some people, because I think there was like a little bit of edifying on where, like, how much did they use from the film and whatnot. But I think this version, I think the one you're talking about that aired in '86. Of course, Lorenzo Music, who played Peter. Of course, we all know him from the Garfield cartoons. Of course, among others, Buster Jones, of course, voiced Winston. Among others, Dave Coulier, a pre-Full House Dave Coulier, was another voice of Peter after Lorenzo Music, about to do the Garfield and Friends cartoon. We'll probably dedicate a salute that at some point. But yeah, I mean, like, Dan Aykroyd also voiced some of the Peter as well. So yeah, there have been a lot of various versions of it. So I mean, I think this one was really, it's unfortunately only lasted one season, but I actually like the cartoons. I actually like all the Ghostbusters cartoons. I think they all provide a different flavor and a different version of their own spin on it.
I just like the theme song, because it was very different from, of course, the Ray Parker Jr. movie, and of course that his theme, talking about Ray Parker Jr. That was his thing, was used for that cartoon that aired on ABC back in the day as well. But of course, him and of course in the Huey Lewis in the News, they were trying to battle to see who was going to do the theme song for that movie. Of course, Ray Parker Jr. won. They're not going to talk about the lawsuit publicly, so you can dig into that yourselves. But with the Filmation's Ghostbusters, their headquarters were in the Twin Towers, which is no longer there, obviously, due to 9/11 in New York City. But they almost did the same thing as the Columbia's Pictures cast of Ghostbusters did as well. It was a lot of very similarities with the characters and with the storylines as well. But I be honest with you, Lakina, I like that theme song. No disrespect to Ray Parker Jr.'s theme. Of course, that was still very known worldwide to this day. But the Filmations version of the theme song, Ghostbusters, that is very underrated. It should get more props than it deserves. I love that theme song better.
Yeah, I think that theme song was more kid friendly. I think it was kind of it wasn't as scary. It was meant to be like playful and fun. I think that's what this version of Ghostbusters was. It wasn't meant to be a more like family friendly, more kid friendly version of it. So they put their own spin on it. So yeah, I liked it. It was really cool. It was unfortunately it only lasted I think like only a few months because of poor ratings and a lot of I know it did well here in Chicago if I'm not mistaken, but the rest of the country it didn't really do too well. That's why it only lasted only a couple of months, but I still watched some episodes on YouTube. I actually watched a couple, I think, not too long ago. But I kind of, But like I said, I kind of feel like sort of look. You can make different versions of it. So yeah, I mean, Ghostbusters was really like one of those cartoons where you probably can do anything with it. There have been, of course, we know about the two movies. Of course, I won't talk about the third one that came out a couple of years ago because I didn't like that. I'm sorry. No shade to Melissa McCarthy, but it just wasn't Ghostbusters. But this version, the Filmation version of the cartoon series, I think was it kept it fun, it kept it playful, and Slimer was actually pretty cute. He wasn't meant to be scary, so. I like on the movie version he's supposed to be a little bit scary, but at least he was more like a kid friendly version of Slimer.
Yeah, so for this old school TV Monday salute during our month of salute to cartoons, we salute Filmation's Ghostbusters from 1986. All right, Lakina, close us out.
You can follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter, X, and Keena _ on the IG.
You can follow your Shirley Sydney Brown on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80, SIDKID80. And make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Make sure you follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And while you're at it, please subscribe to our podcast at War Media Podcast, WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And while you're at it, please give War Media a follow on all social media platforms at WARR Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
And don't forget, you can catch Second City Sports live in 11 color every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago. One more again, as the kids would say. Catch Second City Sports live in 11 color every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
And, of course, you can catch Sports Zone Chicago anytime, anywhere on Roku TV. You get, you got the Roku TV app, or if you have the Roku TV stick or the remote, just type in Sports Zone Chicago, on your wherever you get your apps on their app store. You can catch our show, Sean and Maya, the Smoke Fellas, What's Up, Cuz? I think they're coming back on tonight.
Yes.
Also, I'm sure going to be some other great programming coming up too for this football season. So check it out anytime, anywhere. Sports Zone Chicago on Roku TV.
All right, Lakina, take us home.
All right, so enjoy all the baseball. And, of course, I think the semifinals of the World Cup are later this week. Women's World Cup, I should say, is later this week. So make sure you guys check that out there. So for us, Ted, I'm the Kansas of Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, and we'll see you Friday.
Let's go, Ghostbusters. Let's go. Holla.